Hey guys, Corey and Jen here with you.
Hey, how you doing?
Notice that we're on a first name basis now. We are about halfway through the 9-part marketing course, so I think we can start using just our first names. So, what we're here to do today is let you guys know that your best patient is the one that you've already got.
So, a couple of considerations that we have to keep in mind as we are moving forward. And first and foremost, it's that getting new patients is an expensive and an ongoing proposition. And it's always easier and more cost effective to achieve repeat business versus having to go out and attract new business. And how do you achieve repeat business? Well, you market to the patients that you've already got because you already have a daily captive audience. All right, so what's ahead? Well, today we're going to talk about how to market to your existing patients. We're going to talk about the steps to creating raving fans. And we're going to talk about easy ways to use testimonials in your practice.
All right, so first, let's talk about how to market to your existing patients. So the first thing you need to do is take an inventory of the available marketing channels that you've already got. So this is your patient waiting rooms, the material that you have out there and what it actually says. Is it current? Everything like that. Then we've got televisions. Most likely you have them somewhere in your office or in your lobby or waiting room. And then your newsletters, if you have a printed or online or e-newsletters, then you can use those as marketing channels as well. And your in-office signage, because hopefully at some point in your office, you're touching these patients via some sort of a sign.
So let's talk about the patient waiting rooms. The pros are that you've got a captive audience. Insert your average wait time here. If you have folks sitting in your waiting rooms for, let's say, 7 minutes, 12 minutes, 22 minutes, this is a great place that you can get their attention and tell them about your practice. Another pro is that people are waiting. So, what else are they going to do other than thumb through your brochure or watch television with the elements of your practice spread across the TV or across that brochure?
And on the flip side of the coin are the cons for that. So these people, again, they're waiting. So you don't want to really remind them of how long that they're waiting. So let's take, for instance, the television example. If you've got a looped PowerPoint, or maybe you're a part of, one of those subscription services where you can choose procedures or things like that and show them to your patients. Well, if they see the same one 4 times, they're not going to be too happy about that. So you have to weigh the pros and cons when you're considering which medium that you're actually going to use in the waiting room.
So, let's talk about television and lobby videos. Pros are people are used to television. You have a captive audience and nobody can actually hide from the audio. When they're sitting there, if you have something on the TV that is talking about your practice, chances are they are going to take notice and it's going to be embedded and branded in their mind. And another pro is that you control the message 100%. You can put whatever you want on those lobby videos or on the television to promote your practice.
So cons, I kind of mentioned this a minute ago, and one of them is that it's expensive to create this custom content that's actually going to be on the screens. Looped video, again, if you have only 5 minutes of loop, or even if you have 15 minutes or half an hour, if if the patient notices that they're watching the same thing again, then you're in trouble because they've just realized that they've sat there for half an hour and still have not been seen by anybody. And on the same token, every half an hour, your staff is going to have to hear the same thing over and over and over. And by the end of the day, odds are that they're not going to be able, it's going to be a lot harder for them anyway to put on a smile for the last patient that walks through that door.
So let's talk about printed newsletters. This is actually one of the tools that Corey and I have in our toolbox for our clients. We love printed newsletters only because they're fantastic when you spend a lot of time creating evergreen copy and then translating that evergreen content that you use on your website into a printed format. The pros of printed newsletters is that you can control the message 100%. And some of you may have used in the past a printed newsletter where a third party comes to your office and they ask you to help them sell advertising, and they give you some branding in the newsletter. That is not what we're talking about here. What we will often do, and we feel free to use it and use it in your practice alone. We will take our content that we are creating, whether in the form of a testimonial or an introduction to a physician or a unique proposition for the client or for the practice, and we will put it into a written form, and then we'll take those articles and turn them into print and use them in a newsletter that we then use in other places. So we're talking about a newsletter that's exclusive to your practice, not something that a third party is selling ads in and then you're using just as something to put in your office, but to promote other practices.
Yeah, we actually put one of these together probably about 6 months ago for Carol, and she cannot keep them in her office. It's great. The patients, they take them out of the waiting room and out of the exam rooms, and then she's also using them when she goes to other offices to do some physician relation marketing, and she's giving them out that way, and the response has been great.
And we'll put some sample newsletters over on Doctor Marketing Tips that you can download and take a look at what we're talking about. And the other positive is that when it comes to these printed newsletters, because you are creating evergreen content and you're creating something that's specific to your practice, controlled 100%, it becomes a marketing piece that then you can use it at every marketing event and every health fair out there in the community.
Those are the good elements about using a printed newsletter. So I'll come back and talk to you about the cons. One of them is that there's a cost associated to design and printing. So if you're going to have, let's say, 16 pages designed, and then you've got, let's say, 4 rounds of changes, and you think you're done, and you go through all your approvals, and then one person notices that there's a typo or they don't like an article, well, then you have to start all over again, and it's another round of changes. And then, if you think you only need 10,000, and you have to do a reorder, and it adds up, and it gets pretty pricey pretty quick. And then again, it takes time in addition to money to create one of these newsletters. From writing the content, going through the design, going through the approvals, it's not a quick turnaround, especially if you want a quality piece that you can really use for a long time. So you just have to take that into consideration as well.
Another way that we have used newsletters, the ones that are 100% customized for practices that we work with, is as a direct mail piece to your referring physicians or physician partners out in the community. Pretty relatively inexpensively, you can pull a list of every doctor according to their registration of their license at the state level. And you can go to your mail house, pull a list of every doctor in your zip codes in your trade area. And what we do is make these newsletters so that they are a direct mail piece as well. And so it adds up quickly. The cost does, but the benefit is enormous, and it allows you to cross market not only from a consumer basis from your patients, but also an opportunity to tell your referring physicians what you've got going on at the office. And the teams that we work with that go out and visit doctors door to door love it when a new newsletter comes out. We'll typically, for a larger practice, do 2 of these a year. And as soon as we have them printed and ready to go, it seems as if the marketing department and the sales team is excited all over again because you've given them something new and powerful that they can get out into the community. So I think the pros outweigh the cons. It just depends on your overall budget and the size of your practice and how much time, money, and energy you're willing to put into a printed newsletter. So let's talk about in-office signage. This is very inexpensive, and you can promote just about anything you want. You can cross-promote subspecialties within your practice. You can talk about special events, and you can talk about social media. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, see you on Google+. We'll be waiting for you at LinkedIn. You can talk about just about anything you want. And if you are a part of a member of Dr. Marketing Tips on the paid subscriber side, we've actually got an in-house flyers that they're templates that you can download, pop your logo in there and just hit print, and you can take them out right now and put them in your office.
All right, so cons of in-office signage. Number one, it can look cheap if you're not careful, especially if maybe you've got an intern there and you have them design something real quick on a Word document. They don't really know what they're doing, and you don't have the proper logo formatting and things like that. So, luckily, as Jen mentioned on the subscription side, we've actually gone ahead and created some pretty good-looking templates for you that you can change out the colors and the logo, so you don't really have to worry about them looking too cheap. And the other thing that you have to think about is the amount of clutter. It's great to have, seven things that you're promoting in office in addition to everything else that you've got going on, all the other channels. But at the same time, your office can get cluttered really fast, and you want to balance your message with a warm atmosphere, and you don't want patients to feel like they're being attacked and from every side by paper and advertisements, because you'll wind up turning them off more than anything. All right, next let's talk about how you can create raving fans for your practice. So it sounds a little odd to think that you could have raving fans for a medical practice, but it's not as far-fetched as you might think. Really what we're talking about is finding patient advocates that will bring you more business. What they'll do is they'll go out in the community and talk to their friends and family via word of mouth, and they can give you more referrals that way. And they also have a higher level of brand loyalty. So they are going to be fans of your practice. They're going to choose you above other people. And there's a couple of interesting and easy ways that you can create raving fans and make them patient advocates.
All right, so let's talk about creating those raving fans. First and foremost, a personalized invitation to something that would be described as a special event goes a very long way with your existing patients. A meet and greet with the doctor works very well. I'm always constantly surprised about what happens when you host just an open house for your existing patients and the number of patients that will show up specifically because they feel a kindred connection with their physician. The physicians are the rock stars in their eyes, especially with the older crowd. They just have this special bond with their doctor. And when you will create some sort of special event and make your patients feel special, they will pay it back tenfold. Educational seminars are another great way to, one, to create brand loyalty with your existing patient mix. Two is a great chance for your raving fans to invite potential referrals to the seminar. And three, the more that you can educate those folks that are going to go out and tell your story, the better. And surgery alumni groups, we've had a little bit of experience with this. Maybe you've got a group of folks that have all gone through a hip replacement in a relatively similar time frame, and you invite 10, 15 of these hip replacement patients to your office for some educational follow-up, maybe some discussion on rehab and rehab options for them. It's a great chance for your patients that have undergone the surgery to get to know other folks that have undergone a similar surgery and to kind of swap stories of what they're going through. And from the practice side, it's an opportunity for you to actually go out there and track rehab and track results from surgery. So it's a good chance for you to build those raving fans and ultimately to get testimonials out of your patients.
So, an example of what Jen was just talking about with the surgery alumni groups, recently we put something together for Carol. It was an arthritis walk, and it was patients that had come into the practice and they had a surgery. So, what we did was, we knew who they were. We emailed them all out an invite, specifically inviting them to join our team for this walk. We told them there was going to be, goodies and T-shirts, and they'd have a chance to interact with some of the doctors and things like that. And the response really was overwhelming. We were hoping we would wind up with roughly, I don't know, 25 to 45 patients if we did it right. We wound up with over 100 on our walk team. And it was just, it was a better event than we could have ever hoped for.
Thanks, Corey, for that good explanation. Yeah, that was a great walk out there. And I think the yellow T-shirts really stood out. So good example of surgery alumni groups or just alumni groups in general. So let's talk about creating raving fans and what it takes. It takes the same thing as it takes in creating excitement around anything, and that is that you've got to communicate with your patients. The fact is, if you don't tell your patients how they can help you, they won't know that they can actually make a difference. You have to let them know, hey, look, we're starting the surgery alumni group. Would you be willing to be involved? Or would you be willing John Doe to do a video testimonial for our practice. It really would help us. Or offer to set up a video testimonial and ask your patient to share their story of recovery so that other potential patients can use that when they're making a decision about an upcoming surgery. Establish a grateful patient program to make it easy for your patients to actually help you. Create a rack card or a brochure or something that you can leave in your patient rooms so that, like, your patient is sitting there waiting for you to come in, or waiting for the doctor to come in, they're thumbing through a brochure that says, hey, we appreciate our patients and we appreciate the stories that they tell us, and here's a way that you can give back to the practice, or you can make a difference and share your grateful patient story with us. And finally, establish an e-newsletter for existing patients, and maybe even a holiday or a birthday card program. When you're collecting emails for your patients, by permission only, of course, and sending them something once in a while will really help in creating raving fans, especially if you have a program in place where you've identified their birthday. And you can, there's many services out there where you can get an automated birthday card sent either via email, or even have an automated birthday card where a company out there literally fills out the envelope for you and drops a card in the mail saying to your patient, they get a handwritten card in the mail saying happy birthday. It just goes a long way in creating those fans that are going to go out and spread your message for you.
Yeah, that's a great way to build that brand loyalty that we were talking about earlier. So, one of the ways that you can use the patients that you've already got to help take your practice to that next level is using them to help supply the practice with some testimonials. So, asking a patient to share their story goes a long way toward building those patient advocates, and not only because the patient feels honored that they were approached, especially if they were approached by the physician themselves. That always seems to result in a higher amount of, yeah, sure, I would love to do a testimonial, rather than someone on the marketing team or at the front desk or something like that. And then also, there's nothing quite as powerful as a personal story when you're making a healthcare decision. If I needed a knee surgery and I could watch a video about how wonderful this experience was with a certain doctor and how I could get back to the basketball court in 6 months or what have you, then that's going to go a long way. That speaks to me. And if there's 5 videos that are like that, well, then I'm sold.
Many times we've been sitting in a room to get a video testimonial for a patient, and we will have the patient literally tell us, look, had it not been for that video that I had just watched, I wouldn't have scheduled this original surgery. And so we know that videos work because we have patients tell us every single day that in their living room with their laptop sitting on their lap over a cup of coffee, they were investigating how to, or maybe options for an upcoming surgery, or they were trying to, everybody tries to self-diagnose. So they were on the web and they were looking at things and they ran across a video and it led them to a particular practice to make that appointment. We've more than once had a patient tell us that they were watching a video and somebody was speaking highly of a particular doctor, or the doctor was talking about where he was from, and they actually picked up the phone and scheduled the appointment directly as a result to those to that video and to that testimonial. So testimonials just go such a long, far-reaching way, and they provide such good content for your website, and they really do make a difference in the bottom line of bringing more patients in the door.
Yeah, definitely. So, talking about testimonials, what kinds of testimonials are there? Well, first we got the written testimonial, and we get those occasionally. I think that going back to what Jen was talking about with the Grateful Patient program, that is one of the best ways that you can solicit for written testimonials without actually soliciting for them, because the patient, they can take that card home or they can fill it out and leave it there and what have you. But you can collect your written testimonials that way, or have a spot on your contact form on your website, something like that, or the good old fashioned way of a patient just sending in a thank you letter. We get those too. So that's one way. Next is the video testimonial, which we were just talking about, and that's reaching out to the patient, having them come back to the office, or finding a convenient location to meet them, and really it's asking, I don't know, a handful of questions. Takes about 20 minutes or so, and you can turn that into a piece of evergreen content in the form of a video or a blog post or what have you, and that will pay itself over 10 times over before the lifespan is done and you need to do another one. So it's a great way to really get that testimonial out there. And then obviously giving a positive review online. We see that a lot, whether that's on Facebook or Yelp or Vitals, RateMDs, you name it, but the patients are out there. And if you ask them to leave a positive review online or do a video testimonial or do a written one, that's the only way oftentimes that they'll do it.
All right, so let's talk about ways that you can get these written testimonials. Like Corey said, the Grateful Patient program or using comment cards is a very easy, non-intrusive method for encouraging patients to provide a testimonial. It's also one of those. It's a good way when you have something that's written, a card that's available. Maybe they don't fill it out, but it gets them thinking about their overall experience and about what they would do. And so often it'll allow people to provide some sort of testimonial or customer feedback simply because they saw something saying, well, what did you think of your office visit? So you always want to, if somebody sends you a letter, you want to ask permission to reprint those letters. A lot of times we'll get letters in the mail from a patient that was just had a great experience and they wanted to let the office and the doctor know that they were just so grateful for that experience. So make sure you ask your patients if you can reprint these letters because you can scan them in and you can put them on your website. You can use them as pull-out quotes, maybe in your next printed newsletter. You can use them in your social media, and we'll show you later how to do that when we show you how to create these awesome images that you can use on Facebook. And you can just use them pretty much anywhere. You can put them on the wall in the practice. Maybe you frame them and put them on the wall. But there's so many places that you can use these written letters as long as you ask for permission. And of course, you can have a feedback wall in the practice. It's one of those things where, maybe you sponsor a lot of sporting events or you sponsor the local Little League or the Pop Warner football or something like that. And people send you thank you letters. And of course, you've got patients that have thank you letters. Put those in a frame, put them up on the wall, and show the community and your patients that are in your waiting rooms what it is that you're out there doing in the community.
And moving on, we've got video testimonials, which are, very, very impactful. If a picture says 1,000 words, well, then a video says, it says a whole lot more than that. And, they work really well to show the doctor-patient relationship, especially when you ask, the patient that could barely walk and how, their life has improved since having surgery, and their eyes kind of light up and they talk about how great the experience was and how thankful they are. And as a consumer, when you see that, it's just it speaks volumes compared to the written word, and the ease of doing it from your living room, like Jen mentioned earlier. It's it can't be really replicated any other way. So it's also great at showing the effectiveness of surgery outcomes and easing the fear and the doubt of actually having the procedure done. And the bonus for all of this is it also provides some SEO value, which is search engine optimization, because you're going to tag that video with your practice. And so when people are searching and things like that, it's going to pull up. And then also it allows you to create another page on your website, which is another page that can be indexed by search engines, which will result in more people visiting the website.
All good stuff, Corey, especially the SEO value. We hadn't touched on that, but it's so true. Video testimonials, I mean, it's the gift that just keeps on giving. All right, let's talk about positive online reviews. They're easy to give and they're impactful to managing your reputation. Corey and I were just talking earlier today about some of the trends that we've been watching coming into the new year and the next couple of years. And it seemed like the last couple of years, online reputation management and review sites were a trend that we were monitoring very closely. But we think that trend is moving on to the next step, and that next step is actually the overall patient experience in the office and how they are utilizing social media in the customer relationship management process. And so it becomes an ongoing dialogue with your patients when it comes to social media and your implementation of using social media for your practice. But it ties very closely with patient testimonials and marketing to your existing patient mix. And so, these positive online reviews like on Facebook or on Twitter and on whatever the social network is that you're using is a great way for a patient to provide a testimonial that isn't just visible for somebody that's looking for it, but it's visible for someone that's paying attention to what this particular patient is doing on a day-to-day basis. We most of us get onto Facebook some point in the day, and the very first thing we do is check out what the rest of our friends are doing. So when you can get a patient to leave you a testimonial online on your Facebook page or on another social site, it just speaks volumes, and it has such a resounding effect ongoing over and over. So the more that you can get people to talk and say great things about you, the better. We'll talk about negative patient reviews that on a different day for a different topic, but today we'll focus on getting your patients to give you those testimonials and to be very proactive in going out and getting them.
So the other great thing about these online patient reviews is that, especially when they're on a social site, they're contagious. They're instantly seen by the trusted friends and family of the patient, and they also show up on your practice's feed. So other people see those, and oftentimes we see that if someone leaves a review within the next day or two, we'll actually wind up with another review or two. And it doesn't happen consistently, but when it does, it's always great. So it's important to remember that to get these, there's multiple ways. Like we talked about a few minutes ago, you can have your Grateful Patient program, you've got your RAT cards, or you can just simply ask or have your physician ask, because he might only deal with them, he or she might only deal with them for, let's say, 10 to 20 minutes or so, but they know when they're happy, and they should be able to go ahead and make that ask and really see those results right away.
So let's review some of what we've talked about today. First is that getting new patients is an expensive endeavor, and it's really easy to figure out kind of the return on investment when it comes to going out and getting these new patients. Just look at your total marketing budget and look at the total number of patients that you've brought in a particular year. So look at last year for an example. If you brought in 15,000 new patients and you spent $100,000 to get them, then take 1,500 and divide them by 100,000, and whatever the number is, that's how much it costs you to get new patients. So it really is beneficial to focus on cross promoting to your existing patient base, because it's a heck of a lot less expensive. It's always easier and more cost effective to achieve repeat business versus going out and getting new business. And finally, you already have a captive audience. So why wouldn't you market to your existing patient base if exponentially they can spend more dollars and more time in your practice? It's just easier to get existing patients to convert into another procedure or a repeat business versus going out and having to get a brand new patient.
So yeah, I would say that the key takeaway from today is, remember that after you've seen the patient and you've treated them, that your job isn't necessarily over, because this person can become essentially a walking and talking advertisement for your practice. And that can pay itself off in more ways, in better ways than any type of paid media ever could.
All right, so that's it for today's session. And next up on Dr. Marketing Tips, we'll be talking about public relations. Now, Corey and I've spent a lot of time thinking about public relations, the old traditional way of public relations versus kind of the new media form of public relations. And we've got a good presentation coming up for you next week. So we hope you'll come back and join us at Dr. Marketing Tips. We are just past halfway through on the 9-part series. And so we hope that you're learning some good things and that you're actually out there implementing it in your practice.
And with that, we say thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.